Hello, Jaymin. Hello, Gaurav. It's a pleasure to have both of you a part of this. We are going to talk about smartphones, conning Gorilla Glass, and how the importance of protecting your smartphone is. Now, Jaymin, my first question would be to you. You've been in this industry and part of conning for more than 2 decades. And, smartphones these days have become ubiquitous. Everyone has them. We see them everywhere. There are a lot of concerns among buyers about how the smartphones might get damaged. The first question is, what are these concerns? What are the primary concerns that customers have about their smartphones getting damaged?
Thank you, Abbas, and thank you, Gaurav, for joining us, for giving me this opportunity. Okay, so to your question about concerns about smartphones that consumers have, typically, what the main concerns that they have are around the durability of the cover glass, right?
Right.
It's all to do with the breakages in the cover glass when the phones are being dropped. That's the number one concern. And then
Right.
the second concern that they have is around the scratch on the cover glass as well. So those are two primary concerns. What we see more of is people will live with the scratch, but obviously they can't live with the breaks, right? Or at least
True.
not for extended periods of time. You still see people carrying phones around which have broken glass on them. I see people carrying phones around with broken glass that have tape on them.
Right.
But they don't live with that for extended periods of time. So those are the two main concerns that people have with their phones.
All right. All right. Gaurav, let me ask you, you are, every day you are literally living, breathing phones. आपके हिसाब से, what do you think is how, in your experience, people who watch your videos, when they comment, do they ask you questions about these damages, scratches? What is your experience? What's your take on this?
As they say, glass is glass and glass breaks. So
Right, right.
right now we are using these devices that are kind of fragile, and you need to take your good you need to take care of them in a very good way. So it is not just about the kind of protection, but the main question that I get all the time from all my viewers is, let's say a brand is launching a new product and they don't specify that we are using a Gorilla Glass or something like that, then they are the most curious about, because for
Okay.
them they want kind of because the smartphones these days are kind of like glass slabs, and it is kind of a
Right.
fragile thing to hold. Like, okay, to use it's fun, but once it gets broken, then it's taking away all the kind of maybe good looks or whatever. So the first question that comes to me from most of my viewers is, does this phone has a Gorilla Glass? you know
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do you think an average Indian buyer is willing to shell out, say, a premium per se for a superior cover glass, as you said?
I I I believe so. I think it typically becomes a buying preference, right? But
Okay.
as Gaurav said, um, a lot of his viewers often talk about, the first question they ask is, does the phone have Gorilla Glass or not? I think Gorilla has become the brand of choice for durability. And with that, people are always looking to see if a particular phone has Gorilla Glass on it. It happens over here as well. We are a small town community here in Corning, and when you go to the local store, the local Best Buy, you find a lot of other local people who are not familiar with the phones, who don't work at Corning, asking the employees in the store if a particular phone has Gorilla Glass on it or not. Um, I think it's the same across the world at the moment with the different generations of glass that we have produced.
From your perspective, what do you think, they can do to keep their smartphones safe and secure?
So first is to maybe get a smartphone that comes with that kind of a protection. And second, again, you need to understand that nothing is completely, resistant in terms of it will never break or it will never scratch. So you need to be
Right.
careful with the
Right.
devices. Simple. Yeah.
Okay. Jamin, we always talk about the display. A buyer or me, you and me, we are always worried the display. getting shattered or broken. But how important is actually to have safety protection for the back as well?
I think the backs need safety protection for sure, right? Glass is becoming more prominent on the backs primarily because of wireless charging, right, over the
Right.
last few years. And as wireless charging increased, and then also as Apple started looking at glass on the back, right? I think that the design trends have also evolved into using glass on the backs, right? So protection on the backs with good glass, with a highly durable glass is a highly relevant thing. Now, a lot of the world actually carries cases, right, on the phones, which again is a personal sort of preference, right? I'm not carrying a case on my phone, but it becomes a personal preference, right?
You know what? I would want to add something here. The reason that I don't use any case on my phone is because I would want to use my devices the way they were designed to be used. Because like a brand will never make a phone that they assume that people anyway is gonna put a case on it. So being a glass-backed phone, it increases the premiumness of that phone. Now, along with that premiumness, safety has to be there. Let's say if it's just for the looks, if it
Absolutely.
feels premium, but if it breaks in a while, then what's the point of getting a glass phone? So if you get a glass
Right.
phone, then again it has to be coming with the same kind of protection, just to be sure that okay, you're going to use it for like time to come.
Now we know that most smartphones actually use some version of the Gorilla Glass, while some don't. What, in your opinion, actually makes Gorilla Glass different from the other options which other brands might have?
So Gorilla Glass really has set the trend for um, durability, for optical performance, for dielectric performance, right? We started in this field, as you guys know, back in 2007, and gradually had to evolve different parameters in the glass chemistry in
Okay.
order to actually meet the evolving needs of the industry. And if you consider where we were, back in 2007, the glass that we were producing, which was actually going on phones, was about 1.2, 1.3 millimeters thick. Okay.
Okay.
Glass today that goes on phones is in the range of 0.5 to 0.6 millimeters thick. So you've come down by 50% or even more, right, in thickness. And a lot of the durability is controlled by the thickness, right? But the way we have been able to come down in that thickness, the way the OEMs have been able to design that is because we keep improving the durability of our glass through the composition changes that we keep making and through the ion exchange strengthening process improvements that we keep making. We've got a very large R&D organization that tries to stay ahead by 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
We work together with the marketing organizations around Corning to try and understand the customer requirements, their roadmaps, and try and evolve our glass 2 to 3 years out, so that we can always stay a step ahead in terms of device durability. And I think that is what drives our performance, both from a technical standpoint as well as in the market.
What actually ends up making Gorilla Glass so tough? How do you make it tough? And how do you actually design it for the drops and those scratches, for the wear and tear that comes across come with using a smartphone?
So the toughness of a glass is determined by two factors, right? One is the chemistry of the glass, the chemical composition. And the second thing is the strengthening process that you use for the glass. In addition to all that, how you handle the glass, how you treat the glass as it goes through the finishing process, as it goes through all of the downstream processes that are required for inking it and everything, those become very, very important. So what is we have a team of fantastic researchers who have been on this problem since the early days of Gorilla. And
Right.
evolving the composition and learning about the composition, what makes the composition be really tough from a standpoint of just its native, without any strengthening processes, what makes a glass composition be really tough, right?
Right.
We look at different chemistries. We look at how the glass bonding structure is. And we look at also how all of that plays into the different downstream processes as well. And then we create the glass itself. Once we create the glass, then we also look at different strengthening processes. And so we also have teams of people looking at ion exchange strengthening and how do you improve the strengthening process itself, right? What we've chosen to do is to go really deep with our strengthening processes so that we create these very deep compression layers on the surface of the glass. Glass is weak in tension, but it becomes really strong in compression, okay? So we create these deep compression regions in the glass, and with those deep compression regions, we get additional strength on the glass surface such that if a flaw goes into the glass, it stays enveloped in that compressive region and doesn't penetrate all the way through. So that's how we work, and that's how glasses are created. That's how Gorilla is made to be additionally tough compared to other glasses.
गौरव मैं आपसे एक सवाल पूछता हूँ आपके व्यूअर्स हैं दे आपको बताते कैसे सबसे ज्यादा लोग फोन कैसे गिराते हैं लाइक आई नो मेरा फोन कई बार जेब से गिर जाता है या बैग से आपके ओपिनियन में कैसे सबसे ज्यादा लोग फोन
So going by my own personal experiences, I drop the phone mostly when I'm driving a car. The phone is in the lap. While getting out, I forget that the phone is there. So that is the most with me. And yeah, that is the most with me. And normally, sometimes it's by accident. Like let's say you're talking and you bump into someone. So that could be one thing. Sometimes putting the phone in the pocket and accidentally thinking that, okay, it's gone inside, but it's not. So slipping or accidental drops, like it's not something very a certain way the phones are dropped. It's just like random instances amongst life. So I have dropped my phone, I don't know how many times, but yeah, till now I have never broken any of my smartphone screens except twice, and those were kind of extreme drops. But yeah, like these are normal day, everyday life scenarios. It could be anytime. Like even if you are talking to a phone or a video call and you just get your earphones tangled, maybe. So it could be anything.
Right. What is the best way to conduct a durability test?
Yeah, the way we test phones, the scientific approach of testing phones is by doing a drop test, right? When we create new glasses, we also create pucks, which are essentially very similar to a phone, but they don't have all the housing, all the internal systems of a phone, right? They have something that simulates a battery and has the same weight as the rest of the components. So we create, then we do drop testing, and when we do controlled drop testing, because it's very important to understand, which orientations your phone breaks in, and the maximum exposure that the glass sees is actually on the front surface, right? People always believe that it's the corners that create the damage and all that, but the corners create the damage only because the corners get pushed in. So it's not getting impacted on the glass, it gets impacted on the bezel, but the bezel gets pushed in and it jams the phone glass cover. But the actual damage that's worst case is actually in the flat face drops that you can do.
Jaymin, let me ask about now the Gorilla Glass Victus, which you recently launched, and you said that this is the toughest Gorilla Glass ever. What goes behind this claim? How is it the most toughest Gorilla Glass ever?
It's the toughest Gorilla Glass from a standpoint of the fact that it's got 2x better scratch performance than our previous generation glasses. The scratch performance is actually 4x better than any of the competitive glasses. And these are scratch tests that we do, which are certified in the glass industry. It's using a diamond tip called a Noop indenter. The loop indenter is a diamond tip that gets brought down onto a piece of glass at a certain load, and then it gets dragged across the piece of glass at a certain rate. And we keep doing that at different loads and different rates until we see big chip outs in the glass. It's a standard test that started years ago in the architectural industry and got pushed into consumer electronics as well. And with that test, like I said, Victus is 2x better than our previous generation glasses. It's about 4x better than competitive glasses. The second thing we do is drop tests in our pucks. We also use, in our drop tests, we use a 180 grit sandpaper. Every time you do a drop, you can just replace that sandpaper, so you're using a fresh surface. On that surface, we see drops of about 2 meters with Victus, whereas our previous generation glass, like Gorilla Glass 6, was about 1.6 meters in height. Competitive glasses typically sort of fail at less than a meter on that particular drop test. Okay.
All right.
So with that comes our claim that it's the toughest Gorilla Glass that we have produced to date.
There have been multiple instances, and considering we have seen multiple variations of the Gorilla Glass 3, 4, 5, 6, and now the Victus, even I have made a couple of videos. I made a video first explaining that, okay, what is Gorilla Glass and how it's different from a standard aluminosilicate glass. Because it's glass, but it's different type of glass with the ion exchange process, as Jaymin explained. Also, I've made a video in terms of what is the difference between version 3, 4, and 5. Because as earlier, I think it was more towards the drop protection. Then later on, it diverted towards scratch protection. But now with the Victus, as Jaymin said, that the idea was to develop something that is equally kind of, giving protection in terms of scratch and the drops. So there's always a curiosity, because let's say if you see a spec sheet and if you see just, okay, Gorilla Glass version 6 or Gorilla Glass 5, then there will be an obvious question that what is the difference? So I get tons of them, and I've explained them earlier in my videos. And now I think the question would be why there's no number? Why from 6 it's
Jaymin, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually a good question. When we were making the glass, absolutely we were marching towards the direction of Gorilla Glass 7. Okay. Our marketing folks came back and said, this glass is looking so different because of the improvements that we've made, where we've simultaneously improved both drop and scratch performance, which we haven't done previously. And therefore, we ought to call this glass something new, something different. So we did an internal survey and came up with Victus, which we all actually really liked. I mean, Victus is Latin. It basically means, life. For us, Gorilla Glass is a way of life. For us, innovation is a way of life. So all of that really spoke to, something that we all resonated with, and that was the reason that we went with the new name.
On that note, I would like to thank both of you for joining for this enlightening discussion. Learned a lot about the new Corning Gorilla Glass Victus, how users can protect their smartphones. Thank you, Gaurav, so much for joining us. Thank you, Jaymin, for your time. And it was a pleasure talking to both of you.